The next part of our program, Beyond Spotlight's Story, we ask our guests to talk about an object or an episode in their life that has special significance to them. Is there an object or an episode in your life that has special meaning to you?
Let me show you the object first. This is my school bag, which I bought during a Christmas sale from this otherwise quite expensive British department store in Bristol, England. And I paid £2.99 for it. And that was 1974, 48 years to be exact, which I've been using as my school bag when I was in Bristol, and ever since I came back to Hong Kong, I've been using it as my briefcase. It's still in my study or in my office.
That's wonderful.
Nowadays. I paid, as I said, £2.99, which was nearly what I was paid working as a part-time helper in a Chinese takeaway cum fish and chip shop in Bristol.
Now, tell us more about that part of your life.
My family gave me a one-way ticket to England, which was expensive, and then paid my tuition fees, and then gave me 1 year's worth of living expenses. And then I decided to do some part-time work so that I don't have to rely entirely on my family going forward. I was introduced to this Chinese fish and chip and takeaway shop, and I worked behind the counter for 6 hours an evening on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, and I was paid £3.50 a night. So I made £10.50 for working 3 nights a week. And we also sold things like sweet and sour pork, sweet and sour chicken, chop suey, and curry, sort of thing. And the business was good. Life was a bit challenging.
As a young man from Hong Kong, away from your family, having to speak English all the time, what were some of the challenges that you faced?
Well, I didn't mind the climate, but the cost of living in England, the inflation was a challenge. But it was a very meaningful 3 years. Now, this is what I say to young people as well in Hong Kong. The level of education in Hong Kong, tertiary education, secondary, are actually very good. But I still encourage them to study overseas because as a student, you have an extended period of time, let's say 3-4 years in college, and then you have more time to spend with your peer group, people who are also in their formative years, so that you can really broaden your minds to how other people live and how they see things, and that although it was tough, and I had to sort of juggle between 2 jobs, one as a student, the other as a helper in a shop. It was hard. I walked to school every day, and it took me 55 minutes to be exact in the British weather. But it's very meaningful, very rewarding 3 years.
Wow, walking for 55 minutes every day to school in UK's freezing weather to save on bus fare. Those years must have been tough as a struggling student balancing a part-time job to face with school fees and living expenses. This definitely builds character.
From humble beginnings to where he is today, quite a journey.
It's an episode in your life, I believe, that you've also learned a lot in terms of, to call it Western culture or the British culture.
Yes.
What did you bring back to Hong Kong from that experience, right?
An understanding of the British people, British culture, and the British way of life, and the British political and social systems, for example. So it's not just what you learned in classrooms, provided you're prepared to sort of open your mind up and open yourself up to the local people. We actually learn a lot. Now we live in a very globalized world, and understanding of people and things outside of your own local community, outside of your own comfort zone, I think is very important to young people, particularly this day and age.
And you've maintained the friendships of the relationships that you've made during that period of time?
Oh, a lot. My old employer in this fish and chip shop, and also neighbors in this small district in Bristol called Fish Ponds. And I went back deliberately 3-4 times to go down memory lane, and I sort of looked up my British neighbors every now and then, and before some of them were already elderly when I was a student. Before they passed away, we corresponded with each other regularly.
And those 3 years were definitely good training for you, from very simply how to take care of yourself, and then a much broader outlook in terms of opportunities and
Very
goals.
good training, and also very rewarding as well. And it's something that I highly recommend young people in Hong Kong to do. I mean, you have very good education, you have a good degree in Hong Kong, but going away, live in a faraway place by yourself for a few years in a totally foreign environment is very, very enlightening.
And in many ways, I think, CY, that's also a characteristics of people in Hong Kong. A number of us do have that overseas education experience, and I think that can definitely contribute to our influence in terms of promoting cultural exchange, which is very topical these days.
Exactly, this is a very unique feature about Hong Kong. A lot of young people in Hong Kong go away to study in other places, and recently in mainland China as well. Before that, most people would go to the United States, Canada, Australia, and England to study. And most of them come back to Hong Kong, and they bring back their very unique experiences of life in these different countries. I think we probably have, I don't have the exact statistics, but we probably have one of the sort of highest concentrations of returnees from overseas studies compared to other cities in the world.
I can sense from your smile you do have very fond memories of that part of your life in Bristol.
Yes.
Any stories or any funny stories that you can share?
I remember exactly the moment when I got out of the train station with my suitcases full of these heavy books, having to ask a passerby how to get to my final destination, where I would stay, a landlady's place. Sir, how do I get to Fish Ponds? He was very helpful, but I couldn't understand much of what he said because of the accent. Now, straight away, you realize that you think you can speak and understand English. No. There are very different accents in different parts of a country, which is not huge.
But that probably gave you more momentum in terms of perfecting your English skills and truly try to understand what the culture is all about.
Yes, and also to explore and to sort of understand the similarities and differences between peoples and places.
Thank you very much, CY. That's a wonderful story.
Thank you.
In this part of the program, CY, we're going to get even more personal. I'm going to ask you a few rapid-fire questions, and just give me the answers as you think of it.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Advice to your young self.
Take in and take on the challenges and hardships in life. You'll be rewarded.
What is the first thing that you notice when you meet someone new?
His smile,
What's the biggest compliment you've received?
being patriotic,
How do you unwind? What's your hobby?
gardening,
What's your favorite spot in Hong Kong?
the harbour,
Your favorite historical figure?
Dr. Sun,
If there's anybody that you can have dinner with, dead or alive, who would you pick?
I would say Mr. Deng Xiaoping, if I ever would have the honor.
If you can say thank you to someone right now on the screen, who would you pick?
My wife,
what is the biggest sacrifice as a politician?
Time and family.
The last book you read?
The basic law, actually, again.
Your favorite place to eat in Hong Kong?
Dai Pai Dong.
The biggest misconception about you?
Boring.
Thank you very much, CY, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Now we have one more surprise for you.
Oh, really?
It's not as good as the ones in Bristol, but here's our version.
Well, thank you. Fish and chips. I'm sure this is 30 times more expensive than what I used to sell it.
Does it look like the ones you used to make?
I think it's advanced. Thank you very much. I appreciate this.
Stay tuned for upcoming episodes of Friday Beyond Spotlights. I'm Patrick Sang, your host, signing off. Thank you and goodbye.
Well done. Where do you buy it?
Now, I've all had a chance to get to know CY Leung a little better, the man beyond the spotlights.
It was a privilege to learn that someone with such a humble and frugal beginning can become so remarkable with tenacity and hard work.
Thank you for watching Friday Beyond Spotlights. Until next time, goodbye.